And Chef Greg, Chef Jonathan, I did make you, in fact, co-hosts, correct? I did do that? Did I do that? Okay, good. Just making sure. So, how is everybody doing? We're on week 5. Is everybody excited? Yay! Week 5, talking about marketing. You know, marketing is all around us, right? And for some of you, you're wearing some marketing right now. Ta-da! Boom! Escoffier, represent. So you have to, after I remember taking my marketing class, and like everything I did for my business was marketing. I talked to people in coffee shops and I'd be like, oh my God, your kid's so cute. Look how adorable he is. How old is he? And they'd be like, oh yeah, they're 4. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's so great. We just had like a cute little 4-year-old at my place and they totally need to use the bathroom. So I just let him in and I was talking to the parents because they wanted to have like a family have a little like night away, like a night away from the kiddo, but still be in the same town. So if something happened, they could be there. And they're like, oh my God, that's such a good idea. Like, I never even thought about that. I was like, yeah, because then the grandparents can come over and watch them. And then you can get away with your significant other and have time to actually sleep, because nobody's romantic when you first have a kid. You just want to sleep. And I like it. Chef Jonathan's like, yep. and then, you know, but they're still in town. So if something happens, you can rush right home if you need to. And they're like, oh, that's such a great idea. Oh my God. Like, where do you work again? Where are you? Where's your place? And I'd be like, why, here you go. Boom, brochure in my purse, handed right to the client. Marketing. Ta-da. You know, like guerrilla style marketing right then and there. Marketing is wonderful and it's so much fun. And oh, Nadine, you're not wearing a uniform. You're not representing the awesomeness of Escoffier. Yay! So this is week 5. Can you believe it? Things to do this week. Your assignment, it's going to be due on Tuesday at 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. But you will get, this is a surprise, guys, extra credit. Woo! Extra credit if you turn in your assignment by Saturday at 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. You're going to get extra credit. That's right. If you turn it in by Saturday, you will get extra credit. You will also get extra credit for filling out that delightful survey, that delightful, wonderful survey that will open, I believe it is on Wednesday it will open. Am I right, Chef? Does it open on Wednesday? Yes? Yes.
Yes, it does.
Okay. It opens on Wednesday. So you fill out that survey, you also get extra credit. And remember, when you're filling out these delightful surveys, you can't just say that I'm horrible. You have to explain why I'm horrible, right? Because I will never learn if I just see you write, you're horrible. I'm not going to know why I'm so horrible. So if you learn anything from this class, you have to always talk about the why and the how, right? So it's the why and the how am I horrible, and why I am horrible so I can learn is part of that survey. So remember when you're filling that out. And this will be a perfect time for Chef Jonathan to talk about last week's assignment.
Absolutely. But also you can talk about Chef Greg and I too on that survey. Doesn't have to be just Chef Rachel. So this last week, I saw a lot of great work. I loved the creative solutions I saw in everybody's assignments to the problems that they saw in that P&L. Some of the more common stumbling blocks that I saw were only giving one solution to each of those problems that you identified. You need to have both solutions. So if your problem is, high food cost, then you don't just want to say, look around for a different vendor who you can buy cheaper from. You also want to talk about maybe food waste or menu pricing, because maybe your menu price is throwing off your food cost. You want to give multiple solutions to whatever problem you identified. If you happened to only give one solution, you can still resubmit for full credit. Just as a reminder, just head into the week 5 assignment page and resubmit. Chef Greg?
Yes, sir. Thank you, everybody, for turning in your assignments. Everybody did a great job at looking at the P&L as a whole picture. Obviously, some of the food costs, some of the labor costs was astronomical. Those are really easy ones to pick out. However, I do appreciate the ones where we were talking about rent. We were talking about waste removal. We were talking about repair costs. Those are all go into your costs. Just please do remember when we're talking about commercial leases or commercial renting of a space, it's not necessarily just like an apartment where you would pay a security deposit most of the time, sign for a year, and then renew as you wanted. A lot of times on a commercial lease space, it may be 3 years, 5 years, or up to 10 years. So if somebody had if you thought their rent was too high, that's not necessarily something they can just snap a finger and change, because to break a 10-year lease would be a huge financial problem, more so than they were already facing.
Yeah, that is true. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Chef Jonathan.
I was just going to say, I also saw a couple of assignments that picked up on another problem. Remember, when finding your menu price, you wanted at 30%, so you divide by 0.3. A couple of people caught that Poor John's Pub was multiplying by 3 to get their menu prices. I loved seeing that. It really made me kind of warm inside. So
nice. And remember, guys, because we talked a little bit about this before we started recording, but this is something, if you're a manager, if you're a business owner, if you're an entrepreneur, you're going to have to deal with. You're going to need to be able to look at the numbers and figure out a solution. So it's very easy to do that for your, like, if a recipe doesn't turn out right, because you can figure out a way to fix it. Like the example I gave beforehand was the banana bread. My banana bread has a big old thing in the middle. I can't serve it as banana bread, but how am I going to now fix it? What solution am I going to come up with to make this still a viable product? I'm going to turn it into a parfait. I'm going to turn it into bread pudding. I'm going to turn it into French toast. Those are things that you can do to create the solution. And that is the biggest part about doing in this business, is being able to look at the numbers and create the solutions. Because this is your establishment. This is what your job is. Your job is to create the solution, and no one's going to be able to tell you what to do. You have to come up with these solutions. So that's why I absolutely love this assignment. I think it's a fabulous assignment to do. And then this week, I have also a numbers guy. I'm right there with Chef Jonathan and Chef Gregory. Numbers, woo! Get all excited. You guys don't look as excited. I'm excited. There you go, Tracy. Yeah. But I know Jill will be excited too. I know she likes numbers too. And now we get to talk about marketing. I love talking about
Yes, I do. Thank you, Chef.
Yeah. See, I knew she'd love numbers. So, and I love talking about marketing because, you know, we live in such a technological world now that, like, anybody back in the day, it's like you go to that restaurant that's down the street and there you go, and that's it. But nowadays, I mean, people are traveling more than ever. They're going to all these different awesome places, and people get to experience more. And even though there's a giant thing with marketing that's online, a good chunk of what the customer experience is also going to be offline when they're experiencing your food. They're eating at your establishment. They're having that experience. Remember, what is the product? What's our product? What are the two things that are our product that combine to create our product? You guys remember? give you a hint, tangibles and the intangibles combine together to create our product. So a tangible would be something you can touch. What's something that you can touch? And this is where you speak.
Equipment, product.
Product, yep, the food, the equipment, linens, tables, chairs, right? Those are things you can touch. And what's something that, and the intangible, what do you guys think the intangible will be?
Friendliness.
What did you say, Yvonne?
Friendliness. Your attitude.
Yep, the atmosphere, the experience, all of those things combine, right? So that is really, really important. And making certain, we've talked about your concept, right? We've talked about like the demographic around you, your location, and we talked about, you guys know your concept, you know, like the type of menu you want to have, and you need to make certain everything matches, right? The back of the house, what they're producing in the back of the house needs to match what's the front of the house. So if you are doing a ultra fine dining establishment, I am not going to expect to see a McDonald's style burger. I'm going to expect to see an actual burger that has like, you know, like frog war in the middle with a, you know, fancy immersion foam or something at this high dining experience that's going to match the concept. So it's going to match my expectations. And I'm going to go to this handy dandy, delightful little slideshow I made just for you guys. So remember, you have your brand. And you have your offline, so you have all your marketing materials. Your sign, that is considered marketing material, right? That big old sign that you're gonna have. Your brochures, your chef coats with the logo, right? All those marketing materials. And then you have your online, all your digital, your social media, your blogs, your Instagram, Facebook, websites, all of those kind of things. And then you have your audience, and everything connects, right? You have your audience because we talked about the demographic of your area. We did that in that assignment, right? And now you need to look at that demographic, and you're going to condense it down and figure out your target market. Sheila, yes, I will be posting the slideshow online. So don't worry, it'll be where it usually is under the live session. Haha, sorry, blank there. And then you have your brand. What's your strategy? What are your goals? All of this is connected. So when you think about your marketing, you have about 4 steps, right? Let's talk about those 4 steps that you guys are usually used to. You did an analysis, you identified the needs, right? You figured out your demographic, you figured out your target market. This is that analysis, all that fun research that you guys have done. Remember, we talked about the awesomeness of, you know, who's living in your area, that income, what the medium house, the age was, all of that stuff is going to go into that analysis so you can figure out what your market is, who you are going to actually be trying to target with this stuff, with your establishment. Who's going to eat at your food, like eat your food? Because you can't market to anybody, like everybody. We don't have a budget for that. If we had a budget for that, I mean, it would be like well into the multi-millions. And I don't know about you, but I would just retire and have like 3 different houses if I had multi-million dollars. And I would go from like house to house to house. I don't know if I would spend all that money on marketing. I would spend it on something else. But it's a trickle down effect. So you figure out who your target market is, and then it trickles down, right? McDonald's is a perfect example. McDonald's is not marketing to billionaires and millionaires, even though, as Chef Jonathan told me, Warren Buffett does eat at McDonald's, but they're not marketing towards him. They're marketing to everybody else. They're going to be taking their money. Like if a billionaire comes in and is like, I want a burger, they'll still say, yes, of course, I'll feed you a burger. But that's not who they are actually targeting towards, right? So it creates that trickle down effect. So don't get too hung up on like, well, I want to market to everybody, because we just don't have enough money for that. But just remember that you focus on one, and then it creates the trickle down, and people will get it. And then, because you did that delightful job doing all that fun research, right? We got to create a marketing plan. Yay, marketing plan. And then we got to implement the controls, those 4 P's of marketing that I was talking about. And then your follow-up, because you always got to follow up. You always have to do a follow-up, because there's always going to be TripAdvisor reviews and Yelp reviews. So let's talk about creating that marketing plan, right? So you got to realize the possibilities, because this is your establishment. There's so many different things you can do, and this is where you need to be a problem solver. You have to open your mind and brainstorm and be creative, because there's so many different things you can do. And it's also important to benchmark. So you need to look at the other businesses in your establishment. What are they doing? What are they doing right? What are they doing wrong? And then you get to pick and choose. So for example, when I look at a recipe, maybe it's something I've never made before. I'm going to look at that recipe, like look at something, and I'm going to pick from 5 different recipes. And I'm going to look at 5 different recipes, and I'm going to say, okay, well, this is similar. This is similar. I'm going to use this, and I'm going to use this, but I don't like what they did here, so I'm going to use what they did over here. And you pick and choose to combine to create your own recipe, right? And you're doing the same thing with your marketing. You're going to look at your competition. You're going to look at the pricing. What are they doing differently than you? And you get to pick and choose what you think is going to be best for your establishment, and you're going to combine it all together and create your product, create your brand, your image. And all of this is important because you, once again, got to do the research. And not only do you have to do the research, you can't just say, I'm going to do a high-end place. You're like, well, that's great. I'm your investor. Why do you think a high-end place is going to work? Why? You have to always say the why. You have to say the why, and you have to say the how. How are you going to fix it? This is all part of that marketing plan. And a lot of people do a business plan, but they always forget about the marketing plan. And the marketing plan is really key. And you can't just, and like your business plan, you can't just make it once and be like, I am done. No, you can't do that. Because I walked into a situation like that where they're like, I did my marketing plan. I am done. And I walked into a website that looked like it was the first website ever made in the 90s, Pepto-Bismol pink, doily lace everywhere. And I was like, dear Lord, this is like blinding and it looks horrible. And I was like, how did you even get people in the door with a website like this? So this is why it's so important. You always go back and relook at your website, relook at that web marketing plan to see what you need to do, what worked, what didn't work, and how are you gonna fix it, create the solution, right? Create the solution, just like we talked about, yeah. Only Chef Jonathan and Chef Greg are smiling and nodding. Nobody else is smiling and nodding. Yeah, create the solution. That's great. Oh, I'm so glad you think so when you're looking at this. but you got to create that solution. And that's part of that realizing, oh no, the possibilities. Then you need to create your goal. What is your goal and your objective? This is where you talk about your brand. Remember the delightful corporate social responsibilities that we talked about, being a B corporation, all that fun stuff we talked about before? You tie this into your marketing plan because that's a part of marketing. You're going to talk about how awesome you are and how you're doing sustainable efforts and all this great, amazing things. You're going to talk about that and you're going to market that. And then and that's part of that. What does your brand stand for? And then what's your selling point? All of those things you need to figure out for your goal, what you want to do. And remember your mission statement that you guys all had to delightfully do. This is where this all ties in together. Isn't it great that we bring up stuff from week 1 and all the weeks and how it all beautifully ties together? Love it. Love it. And then knowing your target market. So this is where we figured out your demographic, right? We looked at the demographic. You're going to narrow that down. You're going to see what your competitor is doing, what market is most profitable, what market's emerging, because trends are always coming and going. I mean, what is the newest health trend right now? Is it still paleo? That's still the newest one that you guys have heard of?
Keto.
Yeah, I was going to say that too.
Which one?
Keto.
Keto? What's that one?
It's lack of carb. They don't eat carbs, and if they do eat carbs, it's very, very, very little.
Oh, that's so bad, since your brain especially needs like 128 grams of carbs to survive.
It's kind of like an all protein diet. I did start a fast food conversation in the chat a little bit, so that would be the opposite of a trend. But also, Chef Ria has her hand up for you.
Yes, Ria, how can I help?
When you do your marketing plan and you're looking at your demographics, do you also have to pull into account the social part, like the ethnic categories, like how many Hispanic, Black, white, or that kind of stuff is in your area? Do you do that? Do they play that into effect also? Or is it just the money?
No, it's not just the money. You kind of look at everything because you want to get a clear view of everything. And I would look at it like this. You don't want to offend anybody. So I actually just talked about this in the last class for menus. We talked about chopsticks. I'm very conscientious about chopsticks because my husband is Filipino. So, we go and eat a lot of Asian cuisine. And there are many times where I've gone to a tasting or I've helped a friend do their tasting menu and they decided they wanted to do this Asian twist. And then they present it and they put the chopsticks straight in, digging in at an X like this. And this is actually like the symbol for death in many Asian cultures. So just knowing what to do, like those type of things, like if you're going to have like an Asian twist or something like that, it's good to know the culture, and because you don't want to offend anybody. You don't want to just bring this coming out and you're like, there's no funeral going on. Why did you just like do this on like your chopsticks? Like there's a lot of etiquette that you need to be aware of. So it's just good to understand that so that you just don't offend anybody.
And Ria, a lot of your marketing, your demographics, a lot of it is translating it into what you choose to do. So for an example, if you're trying to use like millennials as your demographics, like you'd want to absolutely make sure you have Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all those things. However, if you were looking for something older than millennials, maybe you do a billboard or maybe you do a radio station at that. you're kind of translating your demographic into like, what am I choosing to do for marketing? So you're kind of just like turning, like, I'd like to cater to millennials the most. However, I want everybody to eat here. I know that I need things that are on a cell phone, things that are quick, things that are pictures, and everybody can comment on. So we're kind of translating that into what we're doing.
Yeah, that's perfect. And that's also what we're going to go over too.
We are. Well, sorry, I ruined it for later.
No, you didn't ruin it. It's great. That's how that you're giving them a little taste, and then it's going to be like, bam.
I jump started Chef Jonathan on that a little bit.
Nice. But then, so that's part of that, knowing your target market. And then you're going to create that strategy. You're going to create that plan. What are your options going to be? Remember, that goes over that product. What's the type of service you're going to do? Are you going to earn your profits because of the volume, the amount of volume you're doing? Are you doing it off of price? What type of thing are you going to, what's the plan and the strategy you're going to do to get people into the door? And you want to make certain, especially with a strategy and you have a plan, that you have a timeline. You got to make certain that you have a timeline and that your decisions and all of the stuff that you're coming up with is going to align with your brand, with your concept, with the image that you're going for. And it's also going to be a big part of your customer service too, the type of service you're going to provide. Because if you're going to do a casual establishment, you're going to have a different quality of service versus the ultra fine dining, high end, where it's Julia Roberts and Pretty Woman, and she's got the little snail fork for those. Have you guys seen Pretty Woman? Yep. She's like slippery little sucker. She's in that ultra high end, super class, and you're going to expect a different level of service. You're going to expect that different high end level. So you need to make certain everything matches. So you want to match your marketing for it. Because if I'm doing high end, I'm going to talk about how everything is like luxurious and elegant, versus McDonald's, they're going to talk about how you will get this fast and it's a value because it's a cheap burger and you can get it for $1 and all those kind of things. And then we talk about the 4 P's. I love the 4 P's. Yay! Have you guys ever heard the 4 P's before? Anybody? Anybody? Nobody? Nobody? Nobody?
Never heard of it as the 4 P's, but I can understand when I'm looking at it. It makes sense.
Yeah, because this is part of that, making certain you're following through, and it's a big part of your marketing plan because it helps set you up to understand all the different parts you have to look at, like your place. What's your atmosphere going to look like? Because that's going to be part of that customer value. If you have that McDonald's fast food or your food truck, you're going to have a different environment and different decor than you are your high-end establishment. And even in the high-end establishment, you're going to have a different decor for an Italian versus a tapas versus like a dim sum establishment. All of it needs to match what the concept is, and your marketing needs to match. So I'm not going to use big fancy like italic style wording for you'll see that a lot more like the cursive and stuff maybe for like an Italian establishment, but not for your dim sum place, right? So you need to make certain everything matches. And then you have your product. So your product, once again, was the tangibles and the intangibles. So what was a tangible?
Things that you can touch.
Yep, things that you can touch. And then what was an intangible?
Environment or
Atmosphere.
Atmosphere. So when you think of Disney, what do you think of?
Atmosphere.
Atmosphere. What comes to mind when you think of Disney?
Mickey Mouse, Minnie
Mickey
Mouse,
Mouse.
the characters, the rides, the food, all the people, the long lines.
But they're creating magic, right? That's the whole experience, is they're creating magic. They're trying to create magic with the movies, with the products, with the long lines, but they're creating magic. That's part of that product. And that's a key part that people kind of forget about. People always think like, oh, well, it's going to be my food. It's going to be, you know, the chairs and everything. But you're trying to create that experience, that memory, because that memory is what people are going to fall back on and they're going to think about. And when they think about that memory, they're thinking about you. And that's what you want. So that's a big, big part of that product that a lot of people tend to forget about, is that experience aspect. And then you got your promotion. How are you going to communicate to people that you are going to have, like, how are you communicating that you are around? What are different things you can do to communicate, make that promotion that your establishment is around? What are some platforms that you guys do?
Newspaper.
Newspaper. What else?
Radio, TV.
Radio, TV. What else?
Flyers, word of mouth.
Flyers, word of mouth. What else?
Billboards.
Faxes.
Sorry, Nadine, what did you say?
Faxes to local workplaces, just to spread the word.
And what else?
Word of mouth.
Social media.
Social media, word of mouth, right? And then we get to, because that type of promotion, the communication, that's going to be determined by the people, the 5th P, that silent P, and that Chef Gregory was going into also, right? Because how you're going to get that word out, how you're going to communicate is really going to depend on your target market. And because there's different generations, you know, we got baby boom, we got Gen Z, we got millennials. I'm in this weird one that they call Zennials because I was born in the, like, it was like 1977 to 1987. We're a weird generation called Zennials for some reason. But you have those different ones. And then you have another type of generation, which is the technology generation. So you have your digital immigrants versus your digital natives. Your digital immigrants is going to be someone like me. I know what a VCR is. I did not have a computer we did not have a computer in our house until I was in high school. So I know what it was like, and I had to learn how to navigate social media and at a later age. Digital natives are people, say like my son, he's going to grow up with technology. He is always going to know, there's my cell phone. He's always going to know what this is. He's not going to know what a landline is unless we go to Nana and Pa George's house, my parents' house, because they still have a landline. But those are, you know, things that, like as Chef Gregory was talking about, that's how you're going to market. How you're going to actually market to people is based off of those type of things, because people that are digital natives are going to really know that social media very well. They're going to know Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat. They're going to know all of them. Versus a digital immigrant like myself, I mean, the last time I posted something on Facebook was 6 years ago. No lie, 6 years ago, my wedding pictures. That was the last time I was on Facebook. But so you're going to have people like me. So how are you going to market differently to me versus somebody who's younger? And that's part of knowing your target market, who you are trying to get in the doors. And then we have our price. And the price is very, very important because you need to make everything be in line. And the price, how you're going to do that is really going to determine your business. Are you going to do a comparative price where you're actually looking at your competition and seeing what they're doing? Are you doing markup pricing? Are you doing like market skimming? Are you trying to create a value? Like my husband in Costco, like Costco is a great example of like, hey, look, I'll sell it for this price. And I always have to tell my husband, I'm like, you know what's a better price? Not buying it. Because he always sees that thing. He's like, look, we can get like a 10-pound jar of mayonnaise for $4. He's like, this is a great deal. And I'm like, a better deal is not buying it. But he sees that value and he wants it. He wants it right then and there. So you have to think about that price when you're looking at your place, what type of concept you're going for, the promotions that you're doing, the people that work for your establishment, how, because your employees make a difference. How are you going to create that level of service? All of that stuff is going to combine. And then I pulled up here for your guys' viewing pleasure some websites that I really like, because social media is very, very important, especially nowadays. And you have to have a nice website. You really, really do nowadays. And these ones I liked because they were clean. They look very nice. And they did a great job with all of their stuff. I enjoyed them. So I pulled these up for you guys to look at. And look at how nice, and remember, this is a key part for your establishment, this is the brand. This is their image. This is the font they use for their brand. And now you're going to notice that they don't have the same font. They have two different styles of font after that. It's very similar to when you're building your menu. You have your main font, your primary font, and then you have your secondary fonts, right? So they have the secondary font, and then they have the font that they use for the body of the main stuff. So it's very important that you don't make everything match so much that it's not going to, everything blends. You still want your brand, your logo to be the main attraction for people. And they have a beautiful menu and information for you, and they have it all nicely laid out. And then another one that I liked was this place, Vibrant. They had a very pretty, very, very pretty looking, oh, wrong one. Wait, where are they? Let me go back to this. There we go, there it is. I love this one also. This was one of my favorites. They have the hours and location. They have all this stuff up here. And they have all this pretty, pretty photos. So that also means that their Instagram is amazing. Let me go to their Instagram account for you. So look at how nice and pretty all this stuff is. And I want to bring this stuff up especially because for those who maybe don't want to open up your own establishment, who are looking to do something else, because when I went to culinary school, I knew I wanted to run a bed and breakfast. I knew I didn't want to like have a restaurant. I wanted to have a bed and breakfast. And I wanted to do caterings. But I have a great, like a friend of mine actually is a food stylist. And so she does this kind of stuff all the time. So she will be there with like tweezers, putting the perfect amount of sesames on the salad for the photos. She's done some for like Kraft, like Outback Steakhouse. And she is a food stylist, and that's a great gig to get because you make some pretty foods. My favorite example, she had to make for craft, she had to do deviled eggs, and she had to do one for avocado, and she went through 15 dozen eggs to get the perfect egg for the photo shoot. 15 dozen eggs, because they went over the yolk size, how big everything was, all of that stuff. So these are things that you want to look at. And this stuff is also helpful to have an Instagram account because you can look at influencers. You can even become an influencer. How many people have actually heard of an influencer before? Anybody? So an influencer are the people, you know, like the people with the dogs and all that kind of stuff. You know, they have a giant Instagram account and they have a picture of their dog, right? And they're making like millions in dollars off of their Instagram account because they're an influencer. So you can, they have multiple brands. So here are some great examples. Reese's Peanut Butter, somebody has an Instagram account. They have followers, and Tribe's a great one because they're more about the quality than the quantity of followers you have. They want the quality shots. And so these are some examples. So say I made chicken noodles, or no, Campbell's tomato soup. But I'm gonna do a twist. I'm not just gonna put that Campbell's soup into the microwave. I'm not gonna heat it on top of the stove. I'm gonna serve it with sauteed asparagus, and I'm gonna turn that tomato soup into like a molecular gastronomy fused like foam, immersion foam type of thing. And then I have my immersion foam with my beautiful asparagus, and I have the can of tomato soup next to it, and I take a photo of it. Campbell's may say, wow, that's a great photo. I love that. I'm going to buy that photo. And that is what some people do. You see a lot of them for the travels, and this is what they end up doing, is doing all of creating these type of images that you can either get influencers for your business, or you can become an influencer yourself. And then another part I wanted to show, no, wrong one. That's not it. Hold on, where is it? On my screen. Which I want you guys to look at later, but a big part of your actual marketing is a big part of your is how you respond to your customers. And this is via Yelp and TripAdvisor. And this is a hilarious one where Aziz and Jimmy do dramatic reads of bad Yelp reviews, which is hilarious and delightful to watch, which I put the link on there. But that is not how you should handle your customers in real life. You can't tell your customers you're 100% absolutely wrong. That's not how that works. You have to actually provide, that's that follow through. You have to follow through. You follow through with surveys. You follow through with looking at those reviews and saying, like, actually still turning that's, even if it's a service failure, you're gonna have us turn it into a service recovery and create a wow moment. And these are big parts of doing this awesomeness of marketing. And it's a broad topic that you guys just, we go over in like, you know, an hour. But a big part of this is just doing your research and understanding that you need to come up with a why and with the how. How are you going to market and why are you doing it this way? And this is where I'm going to turn it over to Chef Jonathan.
Thank you.
We're gonna talk about the assignment.
I'm so excited. I like this assignment because you guys get to be really creative and really tailor a marketing plan to your own business. You get to tell me all about how you want to market your business, your fantastic idea. It's going to be a part of your life. If you're a manager, it's going to be a part of your life. As an owner, it's going to be a part of your life in this industry one way or another. So I really like this assignment. So without further ado, this is the assignment. Not if you can see it. Yeah, no. Perfect. All right. So this is your assignment. First step, you got to calculate your marketing budget. So if you have a total annual revenue of $700,000 and you want your marketing budget to be 2%, all you got to do is take that $700,000 and multiply it by 0.02. That'll tell you how much money you have to work with for the year for marketing. Also, giving me that number is worth 20% of your grade on this assignment. So that should clue you into how important this marketing budget is. So that's your first step. Next up, you're going to think about your target demographic. You're going to think about what ways you think are really going to speak to the people that you're trying to market yourself to. And you're going to give me 3 different techniques that you intend to use. Please, please, please give me how and why. If I see just 3 sentences or 6 words, I really can't give you too much credit on that for the points. So give me the how, give me the why. Don't just say social media. Say, I'm going to use Facebook and Instagram to market my business because I think it'll reach my target demographic more effectively. Because I don't have to write a check right now for those. That might be one of your answers. That is a really great why. But with social media marketing, remember, it does cost you money. It does cost you a ton of time. You may not have to pay to sign up for a Facebook page. However, your time is valuable. Every minute that you're sitting there updating posts on Facebook for your business is a minute that you're not spending balancing the books, training staff, hiring, promoting, looking at vendors, creating new menus, doing something else. So there is a financial tie in there. Your time is valuable and you only have so much of it for your business. So if you're using social media, I don't want to hear that it's free. I want to hear how you're going to handle the cost, which is the time aspect of it. You have a limited budget, and that may seem like a huge number when you see it. And for me personally, it would be a lot of money. But for my business, it's nothing. It's a really small amount of money when it comes to trying to market your business for an entire year. There's a lot of different marketing techniques out there. There's television, there's radio, there's newspaper. These are fantastic media to use. However, they're also extremely expensive. And you're going to have to do research. You're going to have to figure out how much it costs to run a radio ad in your area on one of your local stations, and tell me how that fits into your budget for the year. How are you going to stretch your budget to accommodate all 3 of these marketing techniques? Chances are, if you're going to choose something expensive, like say a TV commercial, you're going to have to think really creatively about your other 2 techniques. They can be direct marketing, they can be indirect marketing, but you have to be specific about what they are. Direct marketing is when you're directly speaking to your audience. So setting up a booth at a festival. I love going to festivals and tastings and anything else where I can get my food into people's hands. I give it out for free because it tells people exactly what I want them to know about me. It gives them the taste, the smell, the texture of my food and my creations. So I build that, the cost of that food, the cost of the booth, the cost of the festival into my marketing budget for the year. And I have a separate budget just to go to these events and have fun talking to people and giving them free food. Because then I can point them right back to my restaurant.
Chef, also, I found out that depending on what time of day you advertise, the cost differs too. Like late at night, the same commercial that might not run at 10 o'clock in the morning when Good Morning America and all that stuff is on. It might cost hundreds of thousands of dollars cheaper because it's not during prime time, even though you may not be getting a broad perspective of people. Somebody's still up watching it. So it depends on what time of day that works too.
Right. That's absolutely true. When you're looking at, say, radio or even newspapers, when you have that ad run is going to affect the price. I also see in the chat word of mouth. Now, word of mouth is a really awesome thing, but what it's not is a marketing technique, because you have no control over it. It is just out there. It's what other people are saying about your business. So like you said, Nadine, it is not guaranteed. It's what you hope for with your marketing. With your marketing, you want to reach your target demographic and have them be like, this is so cool, I got to tell everybody about it and bring them there right now. That's word of mouth as a result of your marketing technique. So it's not an actual technique in and of itself. Another thing to think about is return on investment. Return on investment is very complicated, but in a nutshell, it's how many people is your marketing bringing into your restaurant. If you send out 1,000 flyers that each have a coupon on them, you can track how many of those coupons you get back. And you can find out how effective that form of marketing was for your business, and whether or not you want to reinvest and continue to send out those flyers. Could be you only get 2 coupons back, but you paid a huge amount of money to print these flyers and mail them out or hand them out, whatever the case may be. So it allows you to track how many people you're attracting to your business. So you want to think about different ways that you can track that return on investment. So, long story short, this assignment seems pretty straightforward. There's not a lot of writing there. But, I mean, the assignment is pretty well summed up with, please answer all 3 questions from above, which would be calculate your marketing budget, 3 techniques that you're going to use, and the how and why of those 3 techniques. Not a lot of words there, but it's a huge concept. So remember that it's all about the how and why. Without those pieces, without how you're going to go about marketing effectively on Instagram and why you've chosen Instagram, you're not really getting that plan together. It's more of an idea than a plan. Does that make sense? I'm seeing nods. I like nods. I'll take nods. Do you guys have any?
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say, do you guys have any questions? Because remember, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, that's all round up into one thing, social media. You cannot pick, I'm going to do Snapchat, I'm going to do Instagram, I'm going to do Facebook. That's the same thing. And remember, if you're like, no, it's not going to cost that much money. My friend's a food stylist. She makes a lot of money. So a lot of people will pay her very good money to put sesames, like individual pieces of sesame seeds onto with tweezers onto that burger to make it look beautiful for that Instagram account. So think about that when you're looking at price. Right, Jeff?
Yes. And just one other quick thing. It is marketing, so you feel free to be creative. When you see like the Toyota Prius drive around your neighborhood and it's all decked out in stickers for a locksmith or something like that, like that's marketing. If you think that that would work for your food truck to have a Toyota Prius or whatever drive around, you can look that up and use that. Just remember, like when you watch the Super Bowl, like you remember the best commercial. That's marketing. Like, yes, it's a TV commercial, but like you remember the best one because they had the best form of marketing. So like marketing's about being creative. So feel free to look up things. I was just using the car as an example, but there is a lot of other marketing ideas.
I would even, sorry, go ahead, Chef Jonathan.
I was going to change the subject, so go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, I would even like go onto other websites when I would do marketing, like, and I was doing stuff for social media. I would go onto other websites, like travel forum websites, and they usually have a blog, and they ask questions, and they'll ask questions about different market demographics or like different areas and locations. So if they were looking for Fort Collins, I would go on, answer the question, and then I would have my link to my website on there. So I would bring them back to me. So that is how I was creatively getting people to my website, was going to other people's websites and writing on their blogs and bringing them to my business.
Awesome. I did want to answer a question that came up in the chat. In order to answer this, you can create a blank Google Doc and send me a link to it. You can just type your answers right into the submission box. Any way you can get it to me that involves hitting that submit button and I can read it, I'm happy to grade it. So just, there's that. Any other questions about this assignment?
If you do advertisement on Facebook, you pay for that also.
Yes. So having your own Facebook page is, you can market that way. Taking out ads on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and all of these wonderful things does cost money, and that's a very different strategy.
So you can't use that?
You can. You just need to do the research and let me know how much you're going to spend on it.
Okay.
How you're going to do
On
it.
average, Chef Greg, I'm sorry to interject.
Amazon.
Well, Amazon's
Sorry, what
different.
What about
But
Amazon?
I looked into Amazon and I looked into everything, and I'll tell you right now that it's on average about, for a small company, around $500 a month to advertise in social media.
And remember, you have like Google Analytics that all ties in to your website, and that's a great resource to see who you should be marketing to, because it's kind of creepy, but you can literally see where people have been and what's like how long they were at each one of your web pages, like each one of your links, like how long they were there for, where they go next. So where they're located. So I could tell that I'm like, oh, I'm getting a lot of traffic from like Wyoming, Texas, and California, because I'm getting a lot of retiree people.
Also, too, Chef Rachel, it's where they sit their time. You know,
Yeah.
like if they sit their time on your menu, it's unbelievable. Like they'll, like, you know, if they spend time on your menu, then, you know, you're like, okay, they're interested. And then you see who they are and you can reach out.
Oh yeah, definitely. And then you can figure out who to market to. So if I knew then like, oh, I'm getting a lot of people who are looking to retire here, I'm going to start marketing in AARP because that is my market now. Like those are the people who are coming to my establishment. Those are things you can look at, and it's a great tool to use. So remember, you just have to be really open to the possibilities. I mean, I even remember when I was in Paris and that Cloverfield movie came out. You guys remember like Cloverfield? Now there's been like 3 different Cloverfields. But people actually spray painted on the sidewalks just Cloverfield. And they used that like fake spray paint, you know, like the spray paint that like the chalk one that washes away when it rains. And they had that everywhere. They just said Cloverfield, Cloverfield, Cloverfield all over the sidewalks in Paris. And it was a great style of marketing because it was like, well, what's Cloverfield? What is this? What's happening here? And so that was their form of marketing to get people out there. They hired people to, you know, write on chalk, like on the sidewalk, like Cloverfield, or like, come this way, we have this going on, you know? So just be open to the possibilities. And this is a fun, you're creative in the kitchen, be creative with your marketing.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Not to be going off subject, which Cloverfield were you talking about? The one with the monsters that came out of the water?
Yeah, the original one that was that like
the Statue of Liberty's head off.
Yeah, because that's how long ago I was in Paris. It was a long time ago.
Yeah, I remember that one. I didn't understand what the movie was about, basically, but it has been like about 3 different Cloverfields since then.
Yeah, so the original one in Paris, if you were there during the time, they had it all over the sidewalks.
Wow. When Chef Gregory was talking about the car, something that had popped in my head was something that I noticed that they do a lot in Chicago that they don't do here in Wisconsin. You know how like they have the seats for bus stops? They advertise on the back of the seats in bus stops.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't even think about that. Like a subway, one of those subway poster things where you're standing waiting for the train and you look across and it's
yeah, they always have stuff like that.
Yep. It's Tracy's Diner, 24 hours a day, best food ever. You're right. Absolutely.
Yeah. And then Matthew, when you're talking about getting on Google, you know, it's all about being consistent and getting on every single, like being on there every single day. I would write about like the New Belgium Tour de Fat. I would talk about it. I would write it in my blog. And because I wrote it in my blog, and Chef Jonathan knows what Tour de Fat is, and if somebody was looking about information on Tour de Fat from New Belgium, I would be one of the first things that would pop up on the Google search engine because I talked about it. And as long as you're present in there, you really got to be on the first page of Google. Like you really do, that first top 3, because after that, nobody looks. So you really got to be consistent and you got to be on top of that. I have a friend who would, in the beginning, he was horrible at social media, but he would just go on and post what the weather was every single day. Every single day he would just put what the weather was and just being consistent with it all the time. Because you'll see businesses that are like, oh, it's, you know, the last time they posted something was like 2 years ago. And you're like, are they still even in business? Because they're not consistent. They're not up to date. So you really have to make certain that you're consistent and you keep it going.
So that's how you get to be number of the first people that will be selected?
You know, nowadays it's a little bit different because now you got to pay. Some of them that are on the top are like, you got to pay to be on the very, very top. But you do have to.
Yeah, SEO is purchase.
Yeah. Because you do have to pay if you're like, some of them you see that like sponsored, you know, the little thing at the end. So, but if you're consistent and you keep on talking about your area and what's going on, it helps when people are looking, because if you say, I'm going to talk about the holiday lights and the events that are going on in town, and you put that on your blog and you put it on your Facebook page, and people are going to be like, what's the holiday lights? When are all the hours and all that stuff happening? That's going to pop up.
Well, and then offer a special during it, right?
Yeah, you can always offer promotions and specials and all that stuff, but you do have to be careful with especially like Groupon and those ones, because many of businesses have gone out of business because they did not realize how much product they were actually giving away and how many people were actually going to buy it. And a lot of businesses went under because they didn't do a cost benefit analysis to help determine how much they were actually giving away. And a lot of businesses went under. So you got to kind of be careful when you do promotions, right, Chef Jonathan? You look like you're going to say something.
I am going to say something. You are absolutely right, though. Not to change the subject, but before we get out of here, I just wanted to remind everybody, makeup assignments are open. If you missed an assignment, if you failed an assignment, please submit it. You can submit it as soon as it's ready. I'm just going to take 2 seconds of your time. Makeup assignments are on the class page. If you scroll all the way down, click on this. You're probably going to have to scroll right back up after you click on it, but they are right there. And you just submit it like a normal assignment in those places. Remember, guys, this is only for missed or failed assignments. So I just wanted to remind you that. Also, quick heads up about next week. It's week 6. That's a short week. Ends Sunday. So it doesn't hurt to get ahead. So once you're done with your week 5 assignment, you might want to start taking a look at week 6 and start working ahead so that it's ready to go. And you might need to adjust it a little bit after next week's live session, but you'll have the general idea already ready to go by next Thursday. Just a couple tips.
I do have a question. Sorry.
No, you're fine. So remember, assignment will be due on Tuesday, 11:59, but you will get extra credit if you turn it in by Saturday, 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. So turn it in early so you can get extra credit. I mean, who doesn't love extra credit? Who doesn't love my memes, huh? Did you guys like the Bob's Burger one? Come on, that was awesome. Nobody? Nobody? Ooh. Let us be seeing you in the live session. Come on.
Yay!
That was great. I love that one. So remember, extra credit, turn it in early. You get extra credit for your survey also. And then come to next week's live session to see what the other fun little surprise will be. Another surprise? All right.
Question.
Yes.
If for some reason, like if you use flyers, brochures, and stuff as one of your marketing techniques, if you can do that yourself, is that advisable? Like if that's something that you can do yourself, the flyers and stuff.
Well, you're still going to use like a platform like Vistaprint or somebody to actually like make the flyers. Is that what you're going for? Like one of those, like you're using like one of those ones like Snapfish or Vistaprint or something like that to do it?
Well, yeah, if you are doing that, but if you're doing it yourself, like if you're printing out flyers yourself and you're not using.
So if you have all the supplies you need to print out your own flyers and you want to design it yourself and you have all the things you need to design it yourself, it still costs you money. It still costs you time. It still costs you ink and paper and the equipment. And so it's totally fine to print them out yourself if that's what you want to do and you have the setup for it. You just need to talk about the expense associated with that.
Got it.
And it's all about the research there.
Right.
And it takes time to make flyers. Like I am very fortunate because my brother taught me how to use Adobe Photoshop when it like first came out in like the 90s. But that, you know, I am able to design my own on my own, but I would still use a platform like Vistaprint or something like that to actually print all of them out. And that took a lot of time. That took my time. I'm expensive. So you gotta, you know, your time is valuable. Be expensive. Put that in there. Don't be cheap. So,
Jeff.
So, do you guys have any other questions? I know we went on a little bit longer, but I love marketing. It's fun.
Well, Chef Rachel, though, the one thing that is to note that when we had our salary in our plan.
Yes. Your salary. Wait, what about your salary? Joe?
No, my point was for the time that you were talking about with the personal like time to spend to do your own flyers. All you would do is take the hours it would take you on what you budgeted last week or 2 weeks ago rather for your salary. If it took you 2 hours to build your own or 3 hours to build your own, you would take that out of your own salary from the budgeting from the labor from 2 weeks ago. And that would be your cost for your budget.
Well, but if you did overtime, remember, if you did overtime to create those marketing things, then you have to pay yourself overtime. So where's that overtime going to come from?
That's my point. I think that that's what has to go into the budget for this week. Like if you did it during hours, you did it during overtime, you need to account for that in your current budget coming up for this marketing segment.
Yep, and that money is going to still come from your marketing plan. So any of the labor and hours, that's
the 2%.
Yep. Exactly. Because that money needs to come from somewhere. So that's going to come from your marketing budget. So even though you're paying yourself, think of it like you would be paying a consultant to come in and do your marketing. You're going to pay them from that marketing budget. So you need to do the same thing for yourself. You're paying yourself from that marketing budget. Does that make sense?
Yes, that's my point for Ria's question.
Oh, yes. Okay, perfect. All right. Well, I'm going to stop recording since we're going on. I hope everybody has a fabulous, fabulous week. Enjoy this assignment. And I'm going to be so excited to see so many people turning it in early and getting that extra credit. Am I right, chefs? Yeah. Everybody's so excited. Turn it in early. Get extra credit. Beauty of it. Get extra credit. And then I will see everybody next Thursday. Same time, same place. I hope everybody has a fabulous weekend. And I'm looking forward to seeing everybody turn their assignment in early for extra credit. So bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.